Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about TTRPGs. First up for TTRPG, wow, I lost that one. As it has been all week, we have the Stone Creek coffee mug with the unicorn on one side and the narwhal on the other. I love this mug. It's a very good mug. I like it a lot. And inside of it, we still have the vanilla chai from Bigelow. It's a very good black tea. Smooth vanilla blended with flavorful spices, sweet and spicy all at the same time. That's an accurate descriptor. It's a nice sort of neutral ground. I've said that, I think, every day so far. But whatever. That's not what's important. What's important is we are getting back into Kids on Bikes today. Today we are talking about what you need to run the game. So this episode here, GMs, is for you. Players, definitely stick around and listen to it because there are a couple things you might want to hear about. But we'll go ahead. We're going to dive straight on into it. Realistically, this is, again, the part where your 5e knowledge might transfer the most. As with most TTRPGs, the role of the GM, DM, whatever it is just to, be the person that runs the game. Be the person that creates the world, interacts with it, or creates things for the players to interact with. And that is just a skill that you build as you do this for a very long time and get better and better at it. So you're not looking at anything that is too horribly complicated and new from a meta sort of perspective. There are a couple of things to keep in mind here, and a couple of things that I want to really sort of hit on with this, but for the most part, you're creating the world, you're creating the NPCs, you're creating the story, you're creating the conflicts and everything like that, and then you are setting it loose with your players for them to run with and change in whatever way they are going to do that with. The first thing that I want to hit on is something that we actually talked about back on Tuesday, the scaled success. That is the thing that you really kind of need to keep in mind as you go here. It is something that is obviously going to be relevant to you as you go here because you need to sort of keep track of where people are falling outside the DCs that you are setting. You don't necessarily need to tell them what the DC is when you set it, but you can share that information or not share that information as you see fit. It helps add tension sometimes if they know exactly what number they need to hit, and it gives a bigger payoff if there is maybe they're like, oh god, I gotta hit a 15 on this one, and you hit the 15 and it's so exciting. It also gives them the opportunity to strategize and game plan around it a little bit. So in this particular instance, in this game, I like to share DCs with my players, but it is not necessarily required of you. So keep in mind the scaled success so that you can make sure that you are landing them in the correct bin every time they are succeeding, or every time they are rolling something to try to succeed or fail. That is an important piece. Building the powered character is really the other big thing that I want to hit on here, because let's be real, that is a huge part of the game for the GM. As I mentioned before, you don't have to play with the powered character. It is not something that is imperative to game balance. It makes it so that your players have something that can be their shield when they get into a really bad situation. What is really cool about the powered character, as you see me flipping through the book here, is that there is in Appendix D, there are four pages of aspects for the powered characters, including personality traits, relationships to the group, and psychic powers. Again, this is built around psychics, but you can reflavor that to be sort of anything that would maybe relate to that. Again, this was developed sort of with not kids on bikes, with Stranger Things in mind. I could be totally off on that. I'm pretty sure it was developed at the same time as Stranger Things originally. I'm pretty confident that's what I heard. But each one of the things that are listed here, which if you are watching, you can see is a pretty dense list across these two pages, are options for the powered character. And you can make up your own options as well. But each of them would go on their own card to hand out to the players. So when you're doing this and you're making your index cards up to hand out to the different players, it would probably be good to go ahead and give them sort of spread out so that there is an aspect for each one of the players from each one of the categories. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but it is a decent way to sort of go about doing it. just so that you have that moving forward, and then it can kind of inform in a balanced way the players as they go. So personality traits are things that might have a mechanical impact, they might not. So we've got things like creative and dexterous and good at hiding. And then we also have things like scrappy, which is a d20 for fight, socially adept, which is a d20 for charm. So you are looking at both actual like characteristics of the character, like the way that it will be played out, and oftentimes that playing is going to fall to you to sort of like be them as an NPC, but as soon as one of the players says, hey, how are we going to interact with this, they take over control basically instantly. It's more just your job to make sure that this powered character comes along with them, and then they are the ones that are determining how they interact with the world, and then you determine the effects of that as it goes. And so again, if you give them a good like list of personality traits, the way that it works out, then they can sort of collaborate on how this character is actually existing and interacting with the world around them. The relationship to the group. This is always an interesting one because it sort of informs the way that some of this stuff is laid out, and it is maybe part of the time where you are taking the reins a little bit more, because these are things like afraid of the member in the group, compelled to help the group solve mundane problems, immediately bonded to a member of the group, very shy around a member of the group. So when they are actively talking and like trying to interact with the character as their characters, then you are the one that is taking the reins a little bit more. But it is good for them to have that information, so that when they are interacting with the character, they can respond accordingly to the way that information is making that character act. It's not such a mystery that, hey, this powered character here is afraid of you and really likes you. They're not shocked by that then, because that was immediately established when you handed out the cards. Then we have the psychic powers, basically the coolest part of this thing. It is what makes it not just another random NPC. It is what the players really take control of here. We've got things like the ability to affect the speed of time, the ability to change their body's density, able to control plants telepathically, able to heal by touching, as just a few of the examples on that list. So I would pick at least one per player, so that each player has access to a psychic power to actually utilize. And then you also need to determine the number of psychic energy tokens that are going to be associated with that character, and then you put those in the middle of the table so that they can spend them to use their psychic powers, etc., etc., etc. It's a really cool and fun way to make it so that there is like this collaborative effort around a set of powers. But by assigning powers to each player, it gives them each basically a stake in how this thing is operating, and it's a really cool concept. You just have to decide which things you want to use. And again, those are all pre-generated options. You can pick your own stuff. You can do whatever you want, because obviously it says psychic powers on there, which to me sort of shoehorns it into like the move stuff with your mind. But as you saw, if you can affect the speed of time or change your body's density, that is a little bit more than psychic. It's just kind of like superpowers, really, and what those superpowers actually are. But you should make them sort of scaled in a way that makes sense for your game. That is, those are the things that we really needed to hit on for how to run the game. You are creating stakes as your GM, or as the GM. It is just sort of your job. It's what you do. We will talk more in depth about fights tomorrow, because it is something that, in case players did check out when I started this here episode, it's something they should hear too. But as the GM, fights are supposed to be terrifying and difficult for the players. That is why the powered character exists. It's to mitigate the fact that they are normal people, just entirely whole normal people. So we'll talk about fights tomorrow, but know that they're just people when you go into a fight. So we will hit that tomorrow with our like sort of FAQs, like random miscellaneous stuff that I think is important, but we didn't necessarily talk about as we went through here. But that is a conversation topic for tomorrow. So that's really everything you need to run this game. I mean, the book is 75 pages long, and like 30 of it our character creation and introduction, and another 15 of it are the appendices. There's not a whole lot of like extra GMs you have to do this in there. It's really pretty straightforward. So that's everything I have to talk to you guys about today. So thank you guys so very much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it, and thank you so much in particular to my subscribers. You're the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in supporting the show, check out subscribe to my channel either on whatever podcasting platform you're listening on, or on YouTube if you are watching. It's the best way to support me directly. I really do appreciate it. But with all that said, don't forget, everybody, drink tea, play TTRPGs, and keep on rolling.